Hello and welcome back to my channel. In today's review, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Transformers Studio Series Dark of the Moon Leader Class Megatron, a character that many fans have wanted for years in the Leader Class format, and finally the Studio Series gives us that figure. As always, we'll take a quick look at the packaging and then we'll take an extremely detailed look at the figure himself. Taking a quick look at the packaging, it is very standard for these Studio Series figures. We've got a fantastic CG render of the Dark of the Moon Megatron Studio Series Megatron Dark of the Moon. The other side of the packaging has an enlarged image of the CGI render of Megatron with a very cool image of Igor, which is also included in this set. The back of the packaging showcases the figure in both the robot mode, the vehicle mode, as well as Igor. States how many steps it takes to transform him, as well as JETFIRE is also available in this assortment, and it also comes with a brief bio. From his secluded Africa base, Megatron schemes with his Decepticon followers. The other side of the packaging has another image of Megatron 34 Studio Series, and that he is a leader class figure. Taking a look at the diorama that Megatron comes with, it is from his Africa base. As you can see, we've got some Cybertronian type of machinery there. We've got the cloaks, got some scrap metal around where the little hatchlings were living, and of course you can insert Megatron into his diorama for a more dynamic display option, and this really does look awesome. And here we have Megatron opened up and out of his packaging, and as he comes packaged in his robot mode. Now to start off with, we're going to be taking a look at details. So taking a look at Megatron's head, as you can see, it is really busted up like we saw in the Dark of the Moon movie. It's a completely different sculpt to my previously reviewed Voyager class battle damage Megatron, of which I will do a comparison later. This one does seem as if though it has slightly healed, as the entire eye section here has re-replicated itself, which I guess you could imagine seeing that the Transformers are able to heal themselves. As you can see, the detail on the body too is fantastic. He has been given this rusty effect, which I do think is slightly too predominant in the torso section. It does look in some areas as if though he has just spilled coffee all the way down him, but nonetheless it is still a nice effect, and the details in the chest are really nice. We've got this faux chain which is done in a rubbery type of plastic, and there's some nice details on the upper part of the arms. The forearms too have got some nice mechanical detail. Both of the forearms are in fact asymmetrical, which is really cool, and both of the fingers too are very different. This one's more of a claw, whereas this one is more of a mixture of different fingers. Moving down to the legs, as you can see, these two are fairly nice. I do wish that these sections were slightly more bulky, considering how much bulk there is on the bottom half of the leg. It would have been nice to see them use this and use it up on the thighs, as Megatron in this form was fairly bulky, but nonetheless the detail is still fairly nice. When you turn the figure around, there's not much in terms of back kibble besides these back sections on the legs. As you can see, you are supposed to give him the chicken leg look, quite like we saw in the movie, and that does definitely make him look a lot more screen accurate, as if you have these sprayed out to his maximum length, he does look fairly lanky. Turning to the detail on Megatron's shins, as you can see, it is fairly nice. We've got still some of that same rust effect on the shin area with a darker grey plastic underneath it, and the toes too have been detailed impeccably well. It would have been nice if they could have had some gold rust on the ends of those to make it look as if though he had perhaps been draping through the sands of Africa, but nonetheless they do still look really good. Now this is where I come to one of my major issues with the figure: the amount of vehicle mode kibble that just hangs out on the back. Now in hand it isn't as obtrusive as it is showing on camera, however it is such a shame as there is so much bulk here, but I really do wish they could have utilised some of it, even these rubbery spike sections, just to bulk up the thigh sections, as these do look fairly slim and quite disproportionate when compared with the bulky bottom area of the figure. But nonetheless, it is still a really nicely detailed figure and is leaps and bounds better than the previous Voyager class. Now quickly turning to the articulation on the figure, his head is on a ball joint, so it can look left to right as well as up and down. The arms are able to rotate the full 360 as well as hinge out to the sides. Due to transformation, you can get a butterfly joint on them as well. Due to transformation also, the arms have got a double joint there, which is really cool, and there is a rotation just above this bicep section. This piece here does tend to bump into this, however it's not too difficult just to move that out of the way, especially with utilising the double joint system. The hands are on hinges, so they can go forwards and backwards. That also goes for this one, and it isn't necessarily for transformation, so I'm not entirely sure as to why they have included this, perhaps when holding the gun, to make it look as if though the gun has weighed his hand down a considerable amount. There is no waist articulation, probably due to how the figure transforms. However, the legs can kick forwards and backwards fairly slightly, and they can't really move out to the sides without disengaging this torso section, which is a shame. There is a swivel at the top of this knee section, as well as a ratcheted joint there. There is also a ratcheted joint at the base as well, with another swivel joint, mainly due to transformation. And also due to transformation, there is a slight rocker joint here. However, it's not ankle pivot as the whole foot does not move. So overall for articulation, it is decent, but definitely not as good as we've seen on some of the Voyager class figures. And considering that this is a leader figure, I would have liked it to have had a more range of motion. Turning to some of the accessories that Megatron comes with, of course, he does come with this fabric tarp, which does just hang over the top of his head and over his shoulder. As you can see, it has been replicated fairly nice in cloth form. At first, I did wish that they had included perhaps a plastic one, as I'm never really a fan of cloth on figures. Sometimes it can look really cheap. But in this instance, I don't think it looks too bad. Considering this version of Megatron is fairly tattered, it doesn't matter on how neat you apply the tarp to the figure. The other accessory that he comes with is, of course, his signature shotgun that we see him wield in the Dark of the Moon movie. This has been painted and sculpted impeccably well. As you can see, there are some really nice, crisp and precise detailings on this, and the paint applications are great too. Unfortunately, on one side it is fairly hollow and unpainted. Details are not lost, which is really cool. He does have a plug on the end which does peg into this hand, and it does hold extremely securely, giving you that really threatening and awesome look that the Dark of the Moon Megatron had. It can also store on his back via this peg here. As you can see on the back, there is a port, so it does just literally peg into the back, just like so. And that is how you store the shotgun in robot mode. And finally, the final accessory that Megatron comes with is this extremely small figure of Igor from Dark of the Moon. Now, Igor was featured in a few scenes, predominantly in the Africa scene when Megatron first arrives. As you can see, the details here are really, really nice, and it has been painted and sculpted impeccably well. Igor does have some articulation. He does have ball joints at the arms, as well as some slight leg articulation. So I am incredibly surprised of how much articulation they have packed into this small figure, and how much detail they have also packed into it. In order to store Igor in the robot mode, as you can see, he does have a few pegs hanging over his shoulder, which do just plug into the feet of Igor. You can just take the figure and have him hanging over Megatron's shoulder, which, seeing how this character behaved in the movie, this is definitely something I could see happening in the movie. Turning to size comparisons, here is the new Dark of the Moon leader class Megatron compared to the recently reviewed Voyager class Optimus Prime. Now, despite this being a leader class, I do still think that the scale works fairly nicely. It has mainly been put in the leader class category for the size of the vehicle mode, as well as the amount of plastic that they've used. This is considerably more bulkier and chunkier than the original Voyager class Revenge of the Fallen figure. So in this instance, I do think that the leader class price point is warranted, and I do think that these two scale really nice together. Comparing both leader class and Voyager class Megatron, as you can see, they are exactly the same in terms of height. If you wish, you can extend the legs slightly longer to make him more eye to eye with this version of Megatron. And seeing as this is the battle damage version, I can showcase the differences in the head sculpt. As you can see, the Voyager class battle damage Megatron is a lot more destroyed in terms of its aesthetic. As you can see, half his face has been completely blown off with the optic visible, whereas on this side it does look as if though it has healed a lot more on the Dark of the Moon Megatron. So this definitely does look like a before and middle process of healing. So overall, I think both the head sculpts are really nice. If I had to choose between the two in terms of head sculpts, I would definitely opt to go with the Dark of the Moon one, as I don't really like Megatron having half his face mauled off. For a quick Studio Series leader class size comparison, here is Megatron next to the Studio Series JETFIRE review coming soon, and the Studio Series leader class Blackout. As you can see here, he's more or less the exact same size as Blackout, and similarly to Blackout, as he has such a large alt mode, I do believe that is why they have put him in the leader class category. And as you can see, JETFIRE is considerably taller than Megatron, especially if you count to the top of JETFIRE's back. You can also extend JETFIRE to even further length to make him even taller than the leader class Megatron. Now, turning to transformation on this figure, as I stated, it is reasonably complex. So to begin with, what you're going to want to do is just detach these pieces. You're going to want to pull them forward as they kind of hook over this back section, so just unhook those and pull the whole piece off just like so. You're then going to want to turn the figure around and come to the leg sections here. Now what you're going to want to do here is essentially disengage this whole piece and just fold that down. Repeat the same process on this side. So you're going to want to bring that out and pull that down like so, and just straighten it out all of the way. What you're then going to want to do is come to the front section here and fold this section down, and then swivel this piece around and repeat the same process on the opposite side. So fold that down and swivel this back, and then take this section here and rotate this to all the way backwards like so, and then come to this one here and rotate this one all the way backwards like so. What you'll then want to do is come to these sections here and just lift these pieces out. You can then flip these wheels out also, and then now we're going to want to straighten out the ratchet joints on the knees. So just straighten those sections out here, and then rotate this whole piece around like so. Come to this piece here and also rotate that inwards As you can see, this will just fold in upon itself. Repeat the same process on this side. What we can then do is proceed to bring these two halves together. So just tab this section in at the top and come to the underside. Now here, you can't necessarily clip this in. You have to slide it in the groove like that, and then you can peg the rest of the truck in together, making sure that this whole piece is straight. Come to this side just to make sure that everything is aligned properly. Tab that up the top and then fold these sections all the way backwards. Also, as you can see, we are now forming the tanker section of Megatron. We can then come to this whole piece here and unpeg this. This is on a double hinge, so we're going to want to bring it down like so. Take this whole piece here and squeeze these two together so that this goes over the top, and then we can just snap that into place over the top like so, so that we cover those feet sections. Turning the figure over now, we're going to want to take this piece here and just pull it away from the head section. Just take this down, it will come down on a double hinge. We can then take these sections and just bring those down and then fold the head down into this cavity. Turning the figure around now, we can take these arm pieces and pull those outwards and swivel them all the way around, as well as leave these sections out. Come to this section here and unhinge that, and it's on a double joint, so just get it over the top of these wheels like so. Turn the figure around and repeat the exact same process on this side. So pull this out, swivel it forward, and leave this section out, and then disengage this and ratchet that upwards like so. What you'll then want to do is take this and collapse this on the double hinge so that you're left with something that looks along the lines of this. Now what you're going to want to do is take this and try and get this forearm section underneath this section and tab that in, and then there is a half a tab on the inside of here that will half fill this square section. So take this and snap that into place just like so, making sure that this section here is actually over the top of this. So you might want to pull that out some more. Turn the figure around now and repeat the same process on this side. So lift this up on the double joint, putting this out as well, and then fold this in upon itself and get the arm tucked under. Then take this whole section here and just launch that over as well, snapping that into place with the other side, making sure that yet again this section is out. We can then come to the underside of the figure now, and as you can see, this section here, we're going to want to fold the arms down. There are some tabs on either side here that will plug into these tabs here, and then these slots here will plug into these tabs here. So what you're going to want to do is try and line these tabs up with this section first. So tab that in, and then this slot will slide into that tab on this side, and then come to this side and do that again. Tab that into place, and now we more or less have the base truck mode for Megatron. All we need to do now is take the tarpaulin piece, which I just sling over the top like so. Take this section here and just flop that over, and on the underside of the truck there are 4 posts, so 1, 2, 3, 4, that these pieces will just hook over the top of. So you're just going to want to hook all of these over the top of these pieces here. Hook this section over this tab. As you can see, you do need to stretch them all the way over, and then plug this one on. And there we have the Dark of the Moon Leader Class Megatron in his awesome looking Mack Truck Alt Mode. And here we have Megatron in his Tanker Truck Mack Alt Mode. Now this is a fantastic representation of that extremely menacing looking truck that we saw in the Dark of the Moon movie. Taking a look at the front section, as you can see, you've got all the ridges and the spikes and the serrated grille that we saw in the film, as well as on the sun visor. Very, very reminiscent of Megatron. You can make out the word Mack, as this is an officially licensed product. Now, unfortunately, due to the way it was packaged, this grille section has warped in, but as you can see, it is supposed to be flush, and you can predominantly see the Mack emblem. The front windscreen too has been picked out in a nice grey paint to replicate this kind of dark and eerie vibe to Megatron, with the smokestacks too picked out in a nice gunmetal black. We've also got that same rusty wash that we saw in the robot mode. Here it looks slightly more better, and you've also got the Mack emblem on the top, which is a really nice attention to detail. Moving down to the tanker section, it is actually remarkable that we have got the front cab section as well as the tanker truck, much like we saw in the Voyager version. As you can see, this is really nicely detailed as well. You've got the silver paint for the gas canisters, and there is some nice detailing at the back, which is very faithful to what we see in the movie. Upon removing this tarp section and the cloak, More detail is revealed of some nice chain detailing as well as some nice mechanical components on the top. So that is really cool to see that they have added some nice detail as well as some pistons and machinery at the bottom of the truck. So overall for a tanker mode, it does look really nice. However, as you can see, there are some hollow spots, particularly in the back of the cab section, and when you turn the figure over, this whole section here is completely hollow. Now this is obviously to accommodate for the weapon. As you can see, there is a slot there that plugs into this tab underneath for the weapon storage. So I guess if you're really annoyed about the lack of utilization of robot parts underneath this section, you can just hang the gun under there and it does store really nicely. So overall for a truck mode, it is a really accurate representation to what we see in the movie, and it also does roll fairly nicely. For a size comparison, here is the Dark of the Moon leader Megatron next to the Voyager class Optimus Prime. As you can see, the cab sections are exactly the same height, this one being slightly bigger, but that is probably accurate to what we see in real life, as the scale here to me works perfectly even in vehicle mode. For another comparison, here he is next to the deluxe class Sideswipe, and yet again I do think that the scale works reasonably well with these three figures. So there you have it. That is my review on the brand new Transformers Studio Series Leader Class Megatron. Personally, I think it is yet again another great entry into the Studio Series line. I think the robot mode is a marked improvement over the previous Voyager version that we had. The transformation is fairly complex as well for a Leader Class, and the truck mode, whilst hollow, definitely does a better job than the original Voyager Class version. I also do like the scale. Originally when this was announced as a Leader Class, I was skeptical as to whether or not he would be bigger than the Voyager version, but as you can see, they have distributed the plastic in a way in which makes him in scale with the other figures, but yet enough plastic to warrant the Leader Class price point. I also think the details on this figure are great, and overall this is probably one of the most accurate representations we've got for a Leader Class Megatron. I hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, please let me know down in the comment section below. I have got a review of Leader Class JETFIRE coming really soon, so stay tuned for that review. But until then, thanks for watching.